Okay, 1, 2, 3. All right. So we got most people sort of coming in now. There's one lady here just went to the bathroom, but yeah, I'll just start off anyway, just because I know you guys probably really dying to go back to work. That looks delicious, by the way. God, you're making me hungry. Should have brought my own food to eat while I talk. That would have been an interesting speech. All right. Hey, guys. Thank you so much for being here. First of all, before I begin, I want to really thank General Assembly for having me. GA do really great talks like this all the time. Any of you been to one before? A few of you? Yeah, great. I really recommend it. It's just a great repository of information, of free stuff. Like, you can just come and listen to people like me gas bag on and on. But, you know, it's great just to get some insights into what you're interested in. So I really recommend coming to more of these. So thanks again to General Assembly for having me. Just so you know, we are recording there and there. That is live streaming currently, I think, hopefully. Live streaming is not always, you know, a good thing to do, but we'll see if it works. This, if you're curious as to why you can't hear my voice coming through any of these, it's just because it's just recording my voice. So that's why I'm not reverberating off the walls right now. So yeah, I'll just introduce myself. My name is Gabriel McCarthy. I am a marketing consultant. I work off my own brand called Gabatwa, which I'll just say in a nutshell is less of a company and it's more of just like an idea. It's just a place where I put my thoughts and stuff into creative ways. I like to dissect internet culture and sort of define how that is shaping the digital landscape as it is now. And sort of a more entertaining edge, like it's mostly my own personality that I sort of throw in there to keep you entertained while you watch it, because I watch a lot of marketing videos and a lot of them put me to sleep. So I like to sort of do the opposite of that and make it fun and interesting as much as possible anyway. So it's just to get a feel for the room. I've talked to a few of you already, but just show of hands, who's sort of studying or is a student, is learning sort of about digital marketing. Just raise of hands, anyone doing that? Just 3, okay. So the rest of you, I assume, sort of work in marketing, work for a marketing agency, or work in the marketing, internal marketing for your company, etc. Great. Anyone here unemployed at all? No? Oh, that good on you. Oh, I'm sorry. But it's good you had the free time to come here, so that's perfect. Great. Sounds fantastic. I could use a break. But yes, so that's essentially, that's good. Now I've got to read for the room. I can sort of cater it to you guys. You know what you're going to be hearing, so that's good. So first of all, just going to the subject, so building authenticity into your marketing automation. The authenticity part in particular is what I want to sort of dive into quite deeply into this one. I'm sure all of you are familiar with marketing automation, I assume, yes. What the authenticity part of it is sort of, I guess, what I've noticed is working with marketers and working myself as a marketer, we get stuck in a rut, don't we? We kind of get into this way, the stock standard way of doing things. You go, okay, this is this project. All right, this is A, B, C, D steps we have to take to achieve it, right? That's how a lot of us work. But I noticed that, like, by doing that, it gets a bit tiresome and we sort of lose our edge to things. And so that's kind of where I want to go with in talking about authenticity, because it kind of brings back in that side that we kind of, you know, put aside a lot. Authenticity being like, you know, being honest, being creative in what we do, so that we ourselves don't become kind of like automated practices ourselves or automated machines. You know, we want to try and avoid that and keep things human. So before I get into that though, like a lot of my talks, I like to kind of make things practical and do things that are a bit more fun and different and whatnot. So first of all, my first slide here, I want you just all to whip out your phones if you could, and go to this link here. I'm sorry, it's an absolute mess of a link. I tried to find the most simplest URL shortener thing available, but when you go to this link, it was going to take you to a landing page, and it's going to take you to a form that has got a bunch of questions on it, and its intention is to bring about a understanding that I'm sure you're all dying to figure out, and that is what kind of superhero you are. So go to that landing page and start just filling in the details. And I just ask that you do use your actual email if that's possible. Well, you don't have to use your work one if you don't want to. If you want to use a personal one, that's fine. But do use an email that you will be able to receive an actual email to, because otherwise the next part of this won't really work. So I'll give you guys a few minutes to do that. And once you're done, just pop your phone away and I'll just sort of read the room and get an understanding of everyone being done with filling that out. And this will all come full circle later, I promise. It'll be like that movie. Have you seen Knives Out? The murder mystery one, where everything kind of comes together at the end and everyone goes, oh, like, that's what the intention of this, hopefully, is going to be leading towards.
If you want to use tiny.cc, it's a custom name.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll get towards, it's going to be more towards the end of everything that will sort of, it'll come back full circle. Okay. Cool. All right. I see a few heads up, so I'll just crack on for the sake of time. So the next slide here is basically one of the most major things I often touch upon within all of my talks, which is left-brain marketing. Who knows what the left brain does? Hmm? Yeah, in a sense, yes, it is. Anyone else have an idea on what the left brain does, left side of your brain?
One's analytical, one's creative. I don't remember.
Correct. The left one is the creative. Yeah, yeah. So the creative side of your brain is the left side. And I use left brain marketing in a sense because it's really sort of re-emphasizing that point I made before about being authentic and being creative and not being stuck in the same old each time, you know, not sticking to a formula each time. And I think what amazes me is a lot of people, I don't think, realize sort of what position they are in history, where like we're in a digital market that is constantly moving and shifting, and that you, even as an individual, have the ability to shape and evolve the way it forms, like, you know, 6 months from now, 3 months from now, some things I've seen like progress in like a month's time. Like it's incredible just how quickly things can change. I mean, you think about it, like the first people to work in warehouses, it must have really sucked because a forklift wasn't invented by at that point, right? But someone just went, well, this sucks. I got to get 6 people to lift this, or, you know, stand on someone's shoulders or a ladder to get up here. I'm going to invent something to fix that problem. And that's where you guys come in. That's where left brain marketing is leading you towards, is that creative edge to your everyday work. So that at one point you're at work and you go, I am so sick of how this operates, like this process and this program and whatever. I'm going to just forget it. Screw it. I'm going to change it. I'm going to do it my own way. And then you'll invent your own forklift. So, you know, that's bringing back that analogy full circle, by the way. So, look, and we're in, as marketers, we have an interesting edge over most industries, don't we? Because we basically touch upon nearly every other industry in the market, don't we? Like, there's not really any vertical that we don't dip our toes into, right? And that gives us a huge advantage in knowing exactly, you know, what some company does that no other person from another company would know in another industry. You know, and a deeper understanding of, say, like, you know, the freight industry. You know, even though you don't work in the freight industry, you have a deeper and more in-depth understanding than most people. You know, maybe sometimes more than the people who actually work in freight, right? So bringing that around, so that's kind of where I'm getting at there. So left brain marketing is in a sense, thinking about the creative edge to things and the advantage you have in having that part of your brain to work with in this industry. I myself had no idea what went into tree lopping, for example, and what an arborist was. It's a tree lopping expert. I had no idea that even existed until I started working with a company that did that, and just how in depth it actually goes to, like what you need to do to get the roots out of the ground when you pull out a tree and de-stumping. Like, it's like a whole other world. So knowing those other worlds, I find, is very intriguing. And so that's what keeps me going. And that's why I'll always come back to Leftbrain marketing and approaching everything with a creative edge. So moving on, let's talk about the agenda today. So first off, we're going to talk about what does authenticity in marketing actually mean. We've already sort of talked a little bit about that, but we're going to go a little bit more in depth. Then we're going to talk about what personalization looks like in marketing automation these days. And then we're going to actually go and practically create a workflow together, which will bring about that form thing you guys just filled out. We're going to actually practically do one together off a automation platform, like live here. Don't get too excited. Okay. And then we're going to look at some examples and ideas of workflows and customer journeys and stuff like that to give you guys something to take away. And if you want these slides, I should mention that you asked before, if you want these slides afterwards, I now have your emails, so just let me know afterwards, let me know your name, and I'll send it to you afterwards. I don't like to do the automated send towards because sometimes people just don't want to receive your crap after a speech, and that's totally fine. Yeah, I'll give it to you afterwards. Yeah. And then you can ask me anything afterwards that's appropriate, of course. You'll get used to my sense of humor, don't worry. So first off, I just want to start with a quote because every great speech presentation does. So as machines become more and more efficient and perfect, so it will become clear that imperfection is the greatness of man. And I think that's beautiful, right? Like, it's our imperfections that make us like interesting and different, and it's all that whole creative edge to things. Adding to that, like, the imperfection is what makes marketing tick. Okay, so that's just why I just love that quote, and I just wanted to start with that. So I won't dwell on it for too long, but yeah, just thought I'd share that with you guys. So the next part, fluff versus authentic. Who has an idea sort of what I mean by fluff? Aside from like the other word for a fart, which my little cousin uses. Fluff, in a sense, is just what I was alluding to before about how we get stuck in doing things in a stock standard way and approaching everything with the same feel and tone and whatever to everything. So when I look at an ad like this, and this ad actually came up on my Facebook feed, and it's basically, I don't know why it did, because I just don't relate to it. I don't feel like I want to click it at all. It's not necessarily a bad one, and it's got all the points, like you got your call to actions, you got the links, you got everything that sort of works as an ad, as something that's retargeted to you. But one, it's retargeted to the wrong person, because I don't give a crap about any of this and what it's selling. Two, when I glanced over this, I barely acknowledged it when I was scrolling. Like, it didn't grab me. I only went back on it because I was like, oh, that's crap. And it's not, it's not crap. That's a bad word. But like, it's just, there's obviously a stock image. It's got very sort of not very personalized wording. Try it now. Like, what am I trying? Increase your web earnings. What does that even mean? Like, I don't understand. So I didn't click on it and didn't find out because, I don't think that's relevant. But then you go over to something like this. So First Kiss, who's seen this video on YouTube? That's interesting. There's usually a few people because it's got over...
Is this the one where there's lots of other people doing the first kiss?
Yeah, it's about complete strangers meeting up and kissing for the first time. It was later revealed they're actually models and were actors and stuff, but the premise is that they didn't know each other. And it's got over 140 million hits, and I think that's a lot more now. But this came out a few years ago, and at first glance, you don't think it's like anything like this, like it's not really an ad or anything, but in actual fact it is. When it begins, there's a quick thing of the logo, and it's for a clothing brand. And like, I think about like 10% of the people who would watch that would be intrigued as to who created that and what exactly this is all about. Like, I want to find out more into that. Like, I certainly was, So I did. I looked into it, and it's a clothing brand. They do great clothing, and I bought this. So, so there you go. Isn't that cool? It looks like it's inside out, but it's not. So if you think about it, like if only 10% of the people that watched that video looked into that, that's huge. That's 14 million people who would look into that brand, and 10% is not an unreasonable number, is it? Even 1% is like that's amazing. So oh yeah, your fire exit's there, by the way. So in contrast to these two, like you can obviously see what the authenticity is in this. It's directed to me, someone interested in that. This came up in my YouTube feed, and it was something based upon the recommendation that I should watch because YouTube thought I would like it, and they were right. It has a real personal edge to it. It's got no like in-your-face call to actions or anything. It's very subtle. You know, you can go to the description and there's a link, you know, and you don't even have to do that, but that wasn't the intention of that. The intention of it was to grab you emotionally and make you interact with it on a deeper level. So that to me screams authentic, and I love that. And so now what I'm going to do is use a word that a lot of people in marketing really overuse, and I really detest this word, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm going to pivot to a case study of a particular project that I worked on that actually informed me just about what it means to be authentic in my marketing. It was when I was kind of junior to all of this, but it really taught me a huge lesson. So I want to share that with you guys. And it is the marketing I did around this particular movie, Rough Stuff. Anyone seen it? No, yeah, you have. It's my mum.
I don't always come to these things.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for years.
She just thought today she'd embarrass me, so that's nice. No. So Rough Stuff, I wouldn't blame you if you haven't seen it. This isn't the target audience whatsoever. It's about a bunch of guys called rovers out in the outback who are basically the modern day cowboys. Instead of horses, though, they ride four-wheel drive. So it's a four-wheel drive community that really get their head into this, and they love it. And the typical ochre kind of person that you have in your mind. That's kind of what that is. And so when I started, I made the huge mistake of just assuming who would like this. I just thought, it's this, it's this audience. Like, yeah, I'll just fill it in, and, the Facebook ad, people full driving and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, cool. I'll just tick all those boxes that I thought were right. What I didn't realize was that I made a huge mistake. Because one, when we first started doing the digital marketing, they had no content whatsoever. And I was put in charge of curating that and then putting into ads and, posting it and all that stuff and scheduling and all that stuff. So I was doing a lot of content marketing with no content to begin with, only the footage and some of the stills and stuff from the film. Then I had the challenge as well as then figuring out and building an audience that was going to, really drive home the sales for this film, get bums on seats, basically. And that was starting from ground zero. There was maybe 100 followers for the Facebook page. There was no intrigue from third parties, nothing like that. So what happened was, to begin with, we started posting posts like this. Now, you'll notice from this particular Facebook post, it didn't perform that well. It didn't perform terribly, but it didn't really click with the audience. There wasn't a huge amount of engagements. Wasn't a lot of people sharing it. And even the post itself, it's just, there's something about it that is just it doesn't scream personalization to you. It just feels like a quote and something, and there's no direction to it, is what I'm getting at. And so the results of this particular ad was, it took 3 hours to put together, because there was the filming of the video there was the editing, the copy that went with it, the scheduling, the reporting, all that stuff that came onto it. So for this one particular ad, it was 3 hours. In reality, I think we all understand, we've all built ads or we've, curated content before, right? It can take a lot of time, especially video, okay? So it was interesting then that this happened a couple of months ago when we first started, and then say 3 or 4 weeks later, I just posted this, just out of the blue. I was just on my phone. I was actually in the bar, on the toilet. And I just saw this come up in someone else's feed. And I was like, oh yeah, that fits the audience. That's kind of around the same vibe as people who do full driving or who would be intrigued in Rough Stuff. And like that took 2 minutes to repurpose, and look at the engagement. It was huge. This was early days. So to get 100 people reacting to that, it was massive from a page that had less than 100 people, 98 comments, 30 shares. Like, that's insane. Like, you can imagine how many people this reached. Like, it's incredible. And so it took like that mistake for me to realize, oh, I don't know shit about what I'm doing. Like, I've got to really understand exactly what my audience is and what they're reacting to, and then build stuff around that. So it became trial and error. I think it took about 2 months of posting stuff like this, mixing it up a little, using different wording, whatever it was, till we finally came to this. So this was at the beginning. There was about a 30% successful post reach and engagement. As you can see, there's some of these ads here really underperformed. There's like one hitter did particularly well, but that's about it. So all the red ones indicate ones that didn't do too well. But then you look over here, and this is about 3 months into it, there was a 95% successful post reach and engagement rate. It just shot up in like 3 or 4 months' time. And that was incredible. And by that point, we had over 9,000 people who liked the page. And that's insane. And then that translated into this. When we released the trailers, we hadn't even released the trailers or teasers or anything by that point, but when we did, the first one that came out, this was about 6 months in, got 36,000 views in the first couple of weeks. In the first couple of days, the actual full-length trailer came out, got over 100,000 views. This is just on Facebook. We released it over on YouTube and other things, and other people posted as well on their own ones. So in total, there's probably like 500,000, views in total. And then, we had a final trailer come out like a couple of weeks before it came out, the actual movie, and got over 170,000 views just on our page. And that was a huge accomplishment, which I'm very proud of. And I feel like this alludes a lot back to the topic of being authentic, quite significantly. Mainly because, we as marketers just assume we know things and we understand things as we progress, and we kind of get stuck in a rut. But then, it takes something like this to shake us up and go, oh, you know what? It's better I be ignorant than, I just assume things. I'd rather sort of like keep learning and build upon my knowledge rather than stay put, stay static. So the outcome was, by definition, what I just said, by being authentic in all our marketing efforts, we gave the brand Rough Stuff its voice, better and more relevant reach, and higher conversions via the data and audience listening. So there was a lot of me going in the back of Facebook and Twitter and stuff, and seeing the audiences and building out from that. You do all that data stuff as you would. But it took a lot of learning, a lot of process, a lot of building. And we ran this campaign for about 12 months, I think. 12, 16 months. Well, 16 months if you count when the DVDs and Blu-rays came out and the streaming came out and stuff like that. And the movie performed exceptionally well. Like, it did really well for an independent film that my mate directed and wrote. This is a love job, by the way. It is a really good movie. Check it out, Rough Stuff. I have a little brief cameo, by the way. It's nothing to write home about, but it was fun. It's a really fun Aussie flick, and it sold out. It did a lot of independent cinemas and sold out most of those. We did one in Campbelltown, which was a big, huge four-wheel drive rally, where we had a whole lineup of four-wheel drive cars come to the premiere in Campbelltown. It was amazing. We had Four-Wheel Drive Magazine, Pat Callahan, all these major four-wheel drive, ARB as well. They put in their own social media and their own magazines, like references to Rough Stuff. So there was all this build-up. So there wasn't just stuff we were doing, but stuff we were influencing as well, which is fantastic. So coming back to the subject, so let's talk about what is automation. Aside from that little description there, in your own words, can someone tell me what they think automation is? There's no right or wrong answer, really.
Something in place and it does it. And
That's it?
sit and forget.
Yep, that's it. Thanks, Mum. She hasn't even been to one of these before, so I'm amazed that she knows all this. Maybe the stuff I tell her over dinner.
Because I work in a similar area.
Yeah, fair enough. So by definition, what is marketing automation? Automation is defined as a process where technology is used to automate many repetitive tasks that are undertaken on a regular basis throughout sales, services, and marketing practices. Okay, that's by definition. And of course, with my example, Rough Stuff, we use a lot of automation tools, like to keep posting and putting out stuff like manually was going to be, impossible. So especially when it started ramping up. So we're using things like HubSpot and Hootsuite and stuff to, schedule things and read data and feed that back into the campaign and all that kind of stuff. So we use marketing automation a lot. And the reason for that is because of all these benefits, which I love. And I think these 6 points really highlight the key points of the benefits of it. Simplifying complex processes, of course, like what I just said, like having to post things regularly, having to send out EDMs when someone subscribes or, contacts you or whatever, or when someone clicks something, it simplifies all those processes for you and eliminates the man hours. And, you as a marketer then can just sort of sit back and, make tweaks and stuff and just watch how it goes and improve the process, all right? But it simplifies it in a way. And also, it's great for company digital transformation as well. So if you're in a more sort of traditional industry like freight or postage or whatever it might be, something that is quite traditional in a sense, automation can really fast track the company digital transformation in a way that brings you up to speed with how the current landscape is. And of course, there's on-time delivery and communication. I mean, that's a given. That's what automation's all about. It improves the quality and assurance. There's client and lead relationship management as well, so you're not missing out on important conversations or people who are interested in what you do. And also your current customers keeps them re-engaged all the time as well. And it's also easier for cost tracking and measuring 100%, because you can see just how much you're putting in to your marketing efforts. You can measure it against your hours. You can measure it against what you're spending for a platform, what you're spending on ads, etc.
Can I just say something with
Yes.
regards to that client and lead relationship management?
Oh.
Recently, through Facebook, I received like an ad that said, if I wanted to have an awning put into my house, that they would do it all, measure it, not cost anything, blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
And it was almost like somebody had read my, through cookies, they knew that I wanted an awning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I went in and I did that bit,
Yeah.
filled in the form,
Yep.
sent it to them,
Yep.
still haven't heard back.
Yeah.
What goes wrong?
Yeah. What goes wrong is the workflow processes just aren't set up properly.
Okay.
Definitely. That's definitely what it is.
Because I thought to myself, what ways?
Yeah, and maybe a small team too. That's a really good point.
Is that
A small team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe
so
someone
they're taking
who
on
is
too much.
not so savvy to manage this, and it takes forever for them to take action with the leads.
Exactly. That's a really good point. That's a really good point. There's also the point as well I'll make on top of that is that people will invest in the platform but not know what the hell to do with it. You know what I mean? How many stories, I've heard so many stories about people who invest like in Salesforce or Adobe and they spend like a year sitting on it trying to figure out how to get the best out of it, that what they were sold on, and then they end up wasting like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like it's crazy, right? That does happen. So that's a really good point. Thanks for bringing that up. Mum. So talking about automation, so just around the room, just shout out what can be automated. Tell me. Emails, perfect. That's a perfect point. Anything else? Almost anything. Yeah, true. Yeah, in a nutshell, yes.
Can ads be automated, or
What's that?
any kind of ads?
Ads? Absolutely. Absolutely. We touched on a few of those there. Yeah. Email, social posts, SMS, online ads, all that kind of stuff, responses, landing pages. But a lot of people disregard all of these. And this is just the surface. Okay. There's things like, you can have company updates, something internal automation is something that people are starting to more and more realize the value in. Keeps your teams organized, and like things like reporting can segment into that, and promotions as well, that what you're targeting out to your audiences, and that coincides with geo-targeting, and CRM management's a big thing as well. There are so many things. I could go on and on about each individual one of these, but we're out of time. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because it sort of reiterates my point about like how important automation is and what it can cover. It can cover so much more now these days in this current digital landscape. So next is like talking about the other side of the coin, which is the authenticity part to my presentation. The marketing automation point we touched upon, and we understand what that is now. So when we talk about authenticity, we're talking separately or coincidingly, if that's a word, about personalization. What is personalization? Can anyone just tell me what they think that is?
Personalizing your ads to a certain target, for instance, or
Yes, that's part of it. Yeah. More targeting. Yeah.
Tailoring the message to suit the audience.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. That's what personalization is in a nutshell. It is basically like this. These examples here that I put up. You've probably seen a few of these. People here probably subscribe to Netflix, a few of us, yeah. Things like Birchbox, Spotify, Combank, they do things like this that are incredibly personalized, and we don't even realize kind of how in depth some of these go. And these are some of the better examples I want to share with you. Things like Netflix, they're doing an amazing job and they're getting better and better. Their AI system is incredible these days. They can see what you're watching and understand sort of what your tastes are, and then they can send you recommendations via email or pop-up ads or whatever it is, just saying, oh, I think you would like this. I had watched something earlier, what was it? 12 Years a Slave maybe, and then they sent me this, and I was like, oh yeah, I mean, it's Black History Month, I'll watch it. Yeah, great. I love this movie, it's great. Also, now Birchbox is really interesting. I love what Birchbox do. They will basically monitor all your activity on their website. Whether you click on something like, it might be a handmade purse, it might be, a pair of socks that you like, whatever it might be. They track all that interaction. And even if you don't put anything in your cart, they'll send you these things through your account saying, hey, I saw that you clicked this or looked at this for whatever. They measure the time you spend looking at stuff. And they'll send you this saying, you might like the promotion that this similar brand is having. If you looked at those socks, Harry Prince might give you a discount on those ones now because you looked at them, something might be worth something to you, right? So I love that kind of stuff, what they do. Spotify, obviously very similar to Netflix. They say, I don't know what a top listener is. How is that a thing? Anyway, it grabs you though. It makes you go, okay, cool, I'm a top listener. And said, hey, you listen to this album, or this artist, you might like, these songs from this other artist or whatever, or there's a tour coming up for this artist that you watch. I like Passenger a lot, and he just released tour dates, and it was all advertised through Spotify, and so I booked tickets. So, that's perfect. That's like just amazing user journey. And then also Combank do a great job too. I went traveling last year to Japan, and my travel card from when I traveled previously was about to expire. I don't know how they knew that I was going to go to Japan in a month. But they were like, hey, your card's about to expire in a month. Will you need another one? And I was like, yeah, actually, I will. That's a really good point. So, they said, all right, the card's ending with this number. That's the personalization token there of my previous card. It's going to run out. Well, do you want a new one? Click here to get a new one. Simple. It's brilliant. And I don't know how they do it I do know how they do it so well, but it's just like, it still blows me away to this day, even though I know the nuts and bolts of it. So I just mentioned there briefly about customer journey, and I want to dive into that now because this really ties together all of this, okay? Authenticity and automation doesn't work unless you have very clear defined customer journeys. A customer journey is the path that you move the ideal stranger into a customer and eventually advocate for your business. And like you brought up before about the ad that you saw and no one responded, they don't have a customer journey set up for that. And that's really bad. You know what I mean? So, customer journeys are, in essence, the framework for how you implement your authentic approach to marketing automation. Because without them, it's just pointless. You have no clear defined pathway. And so to give you an example, right now, this is one I built for JB Hi-Fi a while ago. This customer journey is just for one particular instance, one particular example. There are hundreds that they have, maybe thousands now, I'm not sure. But here's a particular one that I set up for them. And I like to move them through various phases. So first is always the awareness stage. The awareness stage is things like online ads, social posts, retargeting, print materials, etc. All that stuff that kind of gets you going, oh, there's a deal, there's a sale, whatever, that kind of stuff. Next off is moving into the acquisition. So, say for example, you saw an online ad, maybe you looked at it or clicked at it or liked it, whatever, you didn't really do too much with it, but you didn't buy into it. What happens then is stuff like retargeting, which is what this Twitter account of JB Hi-Fi did for people looking through Twitter. They sent through ads based upon those previous promotions that went across. And so you can use things like landing pages, you can do it in store even, and through your online followers as well. Next is the onboarding, which is particularly probably the hardest point, and I'm sure a lot of you squirm in your seats when you think about how I'm going to get my client more subscribers. Oh gosh, this might work. This is kind of like the holy grail of trying to figure out, what to do. This, I feel, is always the hardest part. But I feel like if that previous stuff is all done correctly and it's well targeted and all that kind of stuff, there's authenticity within here, then once we get to the onboarding, it becomes a lot easier, okay? So they saw the ads, they came through the retargeted ad or whatever. So to get it, they have to create an account online to purchase whatever it is. So there you go. They've got your information now.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Again? Very liberated here to say things. Credibility is really important at those two phases before anybody comes on board.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like. To me, if you haven't got the credibility, and sometimes it's credibility of brand, but the other thing is, the authenticity of what you're actually doing, and you're trying to get across to the client.
Yeah, to the potential customer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Before
yes.
we get too deep into the journey,
Yeah.
I was just wondering, do people here do personalization, or do they want to do? Maybe if you want to ask a show of hands,
Yeah.
because some people I think are quite advanced, and I'm just wondering where people are at.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So does anyone here do personalization within their marketing? Yeah? Yeah? Yeah, excellent. Cool. Thanks for bringing that up. Well, that's good. So then next, obviously, is the engagements that happen after that. So the product information, the event, the online content, and all that kind of stuff, which is then followed up by the delight. So say someone has previously, and as an example of this, someone's previously purchased on a particular deal. You've got their details. You send them through another hot deal, which is relevant to the previous thing they just bought, for example. So this is what that is. And maybe it's a member exclusive thing. It could be a sale, just a general promo, whatever it might be. And then what happens after that, obviously, is the conversion. So the online sale or the in-store sale, whichever you prefer to do. But what a lot of people miss out is the retention period that happens after that, the nurturing that keeps on going with those customers. Once, like I said before, you make someone an advocate for your business, you want to keep them as such, and you want to keep them coming back. So you do things like social-related offers, mailing lists, and gifts, and all these kinds of things that keeps people invested in your brand. So retention is really important, and a lot of people mistake that. They think the conversion's the stopping point, and afterwards it's just like a monthly subscription newsletter or something like that. It can be way more than that. What I might do is I'm aware of time, so I might skip through this one, which was basically one I did for ANZ a little while ago, but it follows through the same pathway, basically, the same kind of journey. So, question to everyone. So, this is, it's funny, Dan, isn't it? Was it David? Sorry, David. It's funny you brought up that question about how if people use personalization in their marketing practices, because I was going to get to this point here about how do we achieve personalization via automation. And so now I know that quite a few people in the room do that. What's some examples? Like, David, do you want to give an example of how you would use personalization via automation?
For a lot of companies, we already know their industry and location, so we can tailor what they land on in terms of ad campaigns.
Yep, it's great. Fantastic. Any other examples? Absolutely. Sometimes it's as simple as that. Exactly. Yeah, sometimes, you're totally right. It's sometimes as simple as just having the name in there. Yeah, exactly. Makes it more personalized. Anything else?
Relevant content.
Yep, relevant content, definitely. Yep, that's part of personalization. So yeah, that's good. I like that came full circle there, because achieving personalization is all through various workflows. And I talked about using automation platforms as an example here. So A workflow consists of an orchestrated and repeatable pattern of activities enabled by the systematic organization of resources into processes that transform materials, provide services, or process information. That's a huge mouthful, but it just kind of in a nutshell puts together everything that we just talked about. So what I'd like to do next is actually build a workflow with all of you here on an actual automation platform. And I'm sure most of you have heard of this particular platform, but raise your hand if you've heard of HubSpot. Yeah, oh, great. Most of you, that's great. So we're going to jump into HubSpot and actually create a workflow together, okay, based upon what we just previously did at the beginning of this presentation, which was filling in that form and trying to find out what superhero you are. So we're going to actually start from scratch. So you go...
We do personalization using the developer will create some code, you know, because I work with startups, so we don't maybe use HubSpot, but is HubSpot better, you would say, to create a personalization in automation?
It's definitely one of the best ones to use, definitely. You know, personalization can be achieved through other platforms like Salesforce or Adobe or, you know.
They have a developer doing it, but
Yeah.
create some piece of code that they add.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, I would say that HubSpot's a pretty good tool in that regard, yes. So what we're going to do is actually name this to begin with. So we're just giving this workflow a name, yeah?
Probably a stupid question.
Yeah.
I might answer it, but with, you know, like Adobe and so on, when you're looking at their products and stuff, it's all, you know, licensing fees and so on. But with HubSpot, is that free?
No, well, there is a free version that has a lot in it. Like you can do some social posting, you can do some email marketing. You know, there's a very basic version that is free, but it's still pretty powerful. It's pretty good. The starter version, which is like $50 or $60 a month, is slightly better. But what I'd really recommend, if you want to use things like workflows and automation and stuff, then you definitely want to get the pro version, which, you know, is like the next big level up, which, you know, you're paying between $500 to $1,000 a month. But, you know, it depends where you're at in your current state. You know, if you're ready for those kinds of tools, then I recommend it.
Is enterprise level using that, or is it more of a sort of SME, smaller?
Yeah.
HubSpot's the premium. I've got a team of like 3 full-time HubSpot engineering dev guys on it. I haven't tried that startup thing, but I'd be good to go for $50 a month.
Yeah. It's worth a gander, definitely. Like have a crack at it. So what we're going to do is actually set up the relevant workflow that brings about sending you guys an email, which then will define what superhero you are. So to do that, we have to first go in and set up the very first trigger, which was, what was the very first trigger? The very first touch point that we had that happened right at the beginning of the presentation.
Awareness?
Yeah, the awareness, but what did we physically do?
The URL?
Yeah, we went to the URL and then we...
Form completion.
Yep, we filled in the form. Exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah. So what we want to do is go here to form completions, form submissions, I should say, and look up the actual form. So your superhero, that was the form I developed and put on that landing page. So we'll click that. And then we will apply that filter. So the first trigger is anyone who fills out this form on any page is the beginning part of the workflow, is at the very start of it. Okay? Cool. So next what we want to do is say that, all right, if anyone's filled out that form, what do we want to happen, right? So we want the next action to be basically what we want the end path to be. So does anyone have an idea where we want to go from here? Do we want to send an SMS, send a text, or send a... Yeah, that's probably the best thing to do, because what happened in the form was that we put in our phone details and we also put in our email. So the easiest thing to do, and what I preset this particular workflow for, is to send you guys an email which will then highlight the superhero that you picked. Okay, so you can see here, superhero email, we'll tick that and we'll save that. Okay, cool. So now we've got that saved, and what we can do after that is, once the email is sent to you, we can even have a delay of, like, say, 4 days, for example. No. Oops. And, let's just go here. There we go.
Want to refresh it before you get to the.
It's okay. I'll just put 3 days. So, maybe it's, is it internet? Oh yeah, there is internet, okay. All right, don't know what happened there, but anyway, that's all right. Sometimes HubSpot can be buggy. Live demonstrations are always, again, a gamble. So, and in 3 days, what we can have happen after that email sent is maybe we can send an SMS. And we can choose the user. It could come from, say, this could be an internal, this is an internal SMS, so it could send to one of these people, for example. Or we could have, say, another email sent through, or even enter them into another workflow. So yeah, there's a lot of various things we do, but I won't overcomplicate it, because what I want to do now is actually just make this particular workflow live. So what we do is we're going to check the workflow. We're going to say, all right, the form submission was filled out on any page, and the next action to happen after that is to send an email. Great, we got that set. So what we want to do is just review that. And great, it says here already, live, that 14 of you have filled in that particular form because you guys meet the requirements of this particular workflow. So it's going to tell you exactly how those, and you can go, yes, enroll these existing contacts at this particular time, or you can go no, and that will exclude anyone who's filled out the form before the workflow started. Everyone with me on that one? Yep, cool. Yes, so we're going to, yes, enroll, and then we're going to turn on. Cool, now the workflow is on, and hopefully within a few seconds, maybe a minute or so, fingers crossed this works out. Check into your email and see if you received that particular personalized email. Yeah? Yeah, we got one. Great. Got it? Fantastic. What did you get? Oh dear. What did you get? Sorry, what was your superhero?
Really? Should I say it?
Yes.
You're a rogue, please don't touch me. And Fatal Woman.
That's good. Yeah, Rogue. She's got the power to, if she touches someone. Yeah. Anyone else want to share what they got?
I got the same one.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, you got the same. What did you get, Sri? You got the Hulk. Great. Excellent.
This is all from X-Men itself.
From Marvel Universe. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I have some questions.
Yeah.
Can you add another type of trigger? For instance, when you send the email, maybe you can put in a database at the same time.
The best thing about HubSpot is it's already set you into a database, and that's actually what I was going to show you next. So thanks for bringing that up. What it is there is a system in here called Liss. And what it's done is, based upon the action points from that form, it's allocated you to a particular list, so it's segmented you already. So you can see here, 4 of you got Hulk, 1 of you got the Dr. Manhattan, 9 of you got Rogue, which is great. So I hope that answers your question there about segmenting those particular contacts.
Or maybe you can put in another list. So you said like at the same time you send the email, you put in another database for any other purpose.
Yes. Yep. You can do that too. Yes.
You can add different triggers at the same level.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How is the workflow in HubSpot to control and manage all the process all the time? You can go back to that dashboard and you can see this is the numbers in every stage or some conversion.
Yep. Absolutely. You can. Yeah. Definitely. So what I'll do is I'll actually go into one particular user. So we'll go into, say, David's one here. And you can see here that it's already given him a profile within HubSpot, and now we'll basically track him in whatever triggers that we add into this, or the other touch points that we put in. So say if we want to track people in this list who have gone to a particular website, or have gone and ticked on a social post or whatever, then we can add all these personalized preferences here within his profile. Yeah, so we can see here he's only had 1 site visit because he went to that landing page and filled out the form. So you can add to this, and you can actually build upon particular profiles so that people like your sales team or your marketing team can look at its information and actually then, tailor content and communication to this person based upon their pre-existing history, all their data. So if they were, say, interested in, finding out about a particular product, like a air conditioner, a particular brand of air conditioner, and you saw that their interaction, shows that, then obviously your next point of call is either to market them with that particular type of air conditioner, or if they're way down the funnel, then your salesperson can actually call them and say, hey, we're having a sale on, these air conditioners. I saw that you're interested or whatever. Something like that. Does that sort of answer that in the roundabout kind of way?
Yeah. There's a lot of process inside of it.
Yeah.
To know the audience, you have to map the process, I guess, because later on you can, as you were saying, in retention, you can maybe connect with some paid campaigns if you want to.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Hold it to any trade of your audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm just aware of the time, so I'm just going to jump into the actual email itself that I sent you and just show you the personalization around that real quick. So within the email here, that's the template of it. If I go into editing it, you can see in here that this particular section here is a smart block or a dynamic block, whatever you want to call it, which basically means that you're able to, within this particular text box, set about whoever falls into that list, either the Hulk, Dr. Manhattan, or Rogue. They will then receive that particular part in the email. So it'll dynamically change and then send it to them based upon what list they sit in. So that's all automated and done for you. So you don't have to do anything there. So yeah, I think that covers most of what I want to talk in HubSpot. Yeah?
Just to know, do you have a chance to benchmark a little bit HubSpot? I know Autopilot, MailChimp, or any others?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You have experience with those?
Yeah. I've touched on a lot of different things in my time, but I've often come back to HubSpot because a lot of integrations are really possible with it too, and that's great. And it's constantly growing, and also it has an open API, so a lot of people develop their own things. I was at a company that developed a text messaging system that it didn't have at the time, where you could send out particular personalized text to people who subscribe with their phone number. So we developed, based upon their open API, that particular trigger within workflows that you can add in. So yeah, there's all those kinds of things you do, and it's really customizable. What was that, sorry?
Send in blue, but it's only for marketing automation. So email automation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only for email.
What?
Send in blue. Yeah, it's the same as the MailChimp.
Okay, I don't think I've used that before.
It's better value than MailChimp.
Is it better value? Is it? Yeah.
As I understand.
Yeah. Well, that's. Well, it's interesting you say that, because HubSpot itself tried to compete with MailChimp last year by opening up their emailing system to rival it. So it's basically got all the things that MailChimp can do plus extra stuff now as well. And they've called that I think the freemium version of HubSpot now. So it was a direct response to competing with MailChimp. So whether you choose the free version of MailChimp or the paid version, I'm not sure, or the free version of HubSpot, you're going to get pretty much the same thing, but I think you get a lot more with HubSpot. But yeah, exactly. Okay, so just to finish off, here's some examples of some retention workflows I work with. I talked about the last part of the customer journey, being retention, being incredibly important, a lot of people neglect. Here is one that's particularly good. I built for an insurance company where, say, your policy with an insurance company expires, you're put into a segmented list that is filled with that expired people, all those expired contacts. What then you send maybe a month before, 3 months before, should read my own writing. So you send 3 months before a positive branded content message that basically says stuff about your insurance company that isn't directly selling, but it's saying ANZ has proven that it has value for money over all the other major banks or whatever, based upon insurance, awards and stuff. We've won awards, here's some testimonials, some people who are happy, all that kind of stuff. So you just send them that stuff, which is just content, it's information. People digest that and then wait a month before the particular policy expires, send a renewal offer then, just reminding them, hey, a month from now you're going to expire, and then they're highly more likely, I think it's 75% more likely for them to renew their insurance policy if you follow this particular kind of retention workflow. So yeah, that's one example. Another example here is a great one I love, which is the cart abandonment thing. Anyone working with e-commerce based clients, you'll know the frustration of people abandoning their cart when they put in something in their cart online. Here's a great one you can have, which is basically segmenting the total amount of leads who fail to convert and basically abandon their cart. Put them into a segmented lead. You'd obviously have to have the very basics of them, so their email as a very minimum point. And then to 10% of them only from that segmented list, it's kind of like you're doing split testing. You send them an email that varies with that smart content I was showing you before. So the top of it might have a particular offer and then something else, and then might have a different offer in the second email and then something else. So you send them a bunch of different kinds of emails and test to see what email gets the most response, the most positive response and engagement. And then based upon that, then the remaining 90% of those leads within that segmented list, you send out the best performing email, basically. And then, other things can happen from there. If they didn't open an email, you can send them a reminder SMS and stuff and so on and so forth. So the possibilities are really endless, and I love that.
And all this is automated.
Correct. Yep, all automated. So, we're just finishing up now. So just coming back to my point, so Leftbrain marketing, I highly recommend if you feel so inclined to subscribe to my YouTube channel, to Gabatwa, to follow me on LinkedIn, my company page, because I'm constantly putting up creative stuff like this that I research on for weeks on end and develop into entertaining content. So I recently just did a video based upon the marketing around the Sonic movie. Everyone familiar with the Sonic the Hedgehog movie that came out? I did a full-on in-depth kind of crazy conspiracy analysis on how Paramount went about marketing that particular movie. They released what I believed was a fake trailer to begin with, which showed a design of Sonic, and it got people up in arms about the design of him, and then therefore there was all this word of mouth marketing that just happened for free of people going, why is it so bad, why is it bad? And then they decided to change the design based upon everyone's responses. It's almost like they did a huge mass marketing of split testing, right? So, and then they changed it, and now it just got released last week, and it has the biggest box office opening of any video game based movie in history. And it's also one of the highest reviewed as well, which I don't know why, but it just is. So that in a nutshell is what Gabatwa is all about, is just taking obscure stuff and seeing it from sort of a creative marketing angle. And if you can remember #Leftbrain marketing, that would be awesome. So what did we learn today, just to wrap up? So by being authentic in all our marketing automation efforts, we can develop customer journeys for every lead or current customer we encounter by delivering personalized experiences via crafted dynamic content within every possible digital touchpoint and workflow outcome. That's a mouthful. So look, thanks very much, guys. I really appreciate you listening. And like I said, follow me LinkedIn and YouTube. And now I'll do questions. Thanks very much.